My name is Chris Daboul, founder of Esperlux. Thank you for watching. Joining me today at Geneva Watch Days 2023 is Max Büsser of MB&F. Max, it's great to see you.
As always, Chris.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm totally knackered, but this is, I think every time you interview me, I'm so tired. These watch events are so intense and all the work bringing up to it, but we love them. We love them because there's these moments, especially Geneva Watch Days, is so fun, friendly, but generally speaking, at the end of the day, we all assemble under the tent and all our friends from all the brands and we hang out. And so many of our customers have flown in from the US, from Asia. It's really actually becoming a thing. Mm-hmm. Well, it was originally, let's not forget the Geneva Watch Days was created in 2020 because they canceled Watches and Wonders. Yeah. And that, like, in a day, I had a call from Jean-Christophe Babin of Bulgari and Patrick Prugnot, UN and GP in those days, Kering, all calling me up and saying, we should do something. I was like, wow, if somebody from Kering and LVMH who actually spoken to each other want to do something, maybe we should try. And the first one, it was minimal. There were a lot of long hours where nothing was happening. Now, we're double booked on every one of our rooms in the suites. Everybody's here. It's good vibes. It's good energy.
Yeah, for sure. A year ago, we sat here in this exact same room. We were talking about the market and what was going on and what had happened. And I remember you saying that we need to get to a point where the speculators got to get out. Are we back to that point now? Or do you still feel like we have some ways to go before we get there?
So I think we're 80% there. I mean, we've seen since May last year to now the secondary market and all this speculative bubble, like, boom, go down. So I think a lot of the people who are now on waiting lists or trying to buy watches actually want them. It's interesting because I will say that probably in March last year, I was feeling a little jealous of some of my colleagues where the watches were reselling for 4 or 5 times retail and ours were only going for plus 30 or 40%. I was like, oh, damn, we're losers. And that's the greatest thing which happened to us because we're still at plus 30, 40%. And every single person on the waiting list of March last year, when we call them up, say, yes, I want the piece, because they were not trying to buy it to flip it.
Yeah, right.
While those who are buying the watches at 5 times retail, there was maybe a certain incentive not to do that. So I think it's really tapered out. We did an exercise, really interesting exercise at the Mad Gallery in Geneva. We've got these massive waiting lists which have accumulated over the last 2 years. So a month ago, we sent an email to every single person who was on waiting list on any reference and said, look, are you still interested in the piece? And if you are and we have never met, we would be happy to do a Zoom meeting with you and get to know each other. And I'll take the most extreme was the LM101 in steel. Yeah,
the blue dial.
The blue dial, exactly. And so we craft 50 a year approximately, and we keep 10 for Geneva. And we had 204 people on the wish list. That's 20 years. So we got, I think, something like 7, 8 cancellations. It's weird that we're like, yes, cancel. God, it's cool. And so we're down to 190 something. But we had about, I'm going to say, 80, 90 people who didn't answer. 100 said, yes, I want it. 80, 90 didn't answer. So we're like, okay, so those 204 is probably getting closer to 100, which is still 10 years, by the way. And okay, fine. Then a couple of weeks later, I told the team, maybe people didn't understand and you should send them a follow-up email saying, the fact that you've not answered means for us that you don't want it.
Interested. Yeah, right.
And there, out of the 90 who hadn't answered, like 40 immediately said, no, I want that watch. And 50 actually either didn't answer or say I didn't want it. So it creamed off, I'm going to say, maybe a third. And that was generally on all the different waiting lists we had. It's still a lot, but it makes our life also easier. Because there's a point where nobody in our team wanted to speak to any of our clients anymore. Because when you call up a client who's got something on a waiting list, just to talk about stuff, first thing is, when am I getting my watch? And so we who are super friendly brand and company who always like to really create relationships, the team and myself were like, no, we're not calling anybody because the first question is, when am I getting my watch?
Yeah.
So we started this conversation saying, look, we are going to continue the relationship and talking to you, but please, doesn't mean that you're going to get your watch in the next couple of months. It's just that we want to know the state of this wish list and this waiting list. Because honestly, if you put your name down 2 years ago, maybe things have happened in your life. Maybe you've bought something else. Maybe you've had, I don't know how many ADs call you up and say your watch is there from other brands.
Maybe you're out of the watch game entirely.
Exactly. Yeah. So just keep us, it's okay. Let's just stay in contact, because that's one of the pillars of MB&F is we create communities.
Sure.
So there you go.
Okay. There's that moment that you were telling me about where I space out at the end of the conversation. But thankfully, we've got something awesome to talk about that is staring right at us, and that is the new HM9 in Sapphire. It's absolutely incredible. CVD plating on the movement, which gives it a great pop in terms of contrast. This is the first time I've ever gotten to see a real one. Tell us about all the challenges to get to this point.
So yeah, the HM9 SV, like Sapphire Vision, we're issuing 2 series of 5. So it's normal that you don't see many. We had done 2 years ago 4 times 5 pieces, and they're all gone. And so 2 years later, we're issuing 2 different variations. Now, that HM9 started its life completely clothed in titanium. Mm-hmm. And you could see just 2 little sapphire larmes, how do you say, tears, where you could see the balance wheels. But this movement is so incredibly stunning that I remember telling my team at some point when the titanium version came out, guys, we really should do a sapphire version. And everybody's looking at me like, no, you're joking. There is no way we can make this out of sapphire. And so I remember we tried, our first designs were like a very chunky thing where we put sapphire plates like glass panes. And the watch was hideous. But it was like, no, it's the only way we can do that unless it costs an absolute insane fortune. And I was like, no. And then we reworked the system with this skeleton, which you see, and these 2 incredible blocks of sapphire, which are completely milled in 5-axis 3D. We're talking of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. And it's taken us 2 years to deliver the first 20. And now we expect to take at least a year and a half to do these next 10.
And for those that don't know about the movement, that don't understand about, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was a movement that you introduced in the LM2.
So originally 2013, you've got good memory, we launched LM2, which is the very first double flying balance wheel movement, which is an inspiration from Philippe Dufour's Duality.
For Duality.
So Philippe does that in 96.
With the differential.
With the differential in the middle. And then François Paul comes out in 2001 with the Resonance, which is actually 2 gear trains and 2-time indicators, while here it's 1-time indicator, 2 regulators and a differential, which is averaging it out. Yes. And I always remember sitting down with Philippe Dufour in 2013 when we come out with it in the Vallée de Joux, and I asked him, I said, Philippe, how come you only did, I can't remember, it's 8 or 9 dualities? That's all he did of that watch. And he said, well, first of all, they're a nightmare to regulate, because a normal 1 balance wheel movement you regulate on these machines called the Vicis. You put them in the system, and 30 seconds later, tells you amplitude, rate.
You get 1 balance wheel, you get everything else coming
because it's used with a microphone.
Right.
If you put a machine with 2 balance wheels, the microphone is as if you're a doctor trying to listen to your heart and you've got 2 hearts. It just goes crazy. So it's a really, really complex manual system where you have to look at your watch basically for the next month. And make sure that it's timing right. And if it's not, then you disassemble and try and find it.
I was going to ask you, this is something that's come up actually on a couple of occasions, whether it's with resonance pieces that we've come across, or whether it's, there was a global force also does a double balancier differentiel. And I was going to ask you, how do you guys have special machinery that can test it when it's all encased, or do you just have to manually look at the time?
So for a decade, it was all done manually. Now they're machines with lasers, if I'm not wrong, which have come out.
That's right. Okay.
Which when you make 5 pieces a year and you look at the price of the machinery, you're like, I'm not sure I'm going to go down that investment.
We'll just look at it for 5 days.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the other reason Philippe told me why he only made 8 or 9 is because nobody bought it. Isn't that amazing? I think the last Duality went for $3 million or something like that at auction.
Wild.
And he was selling them at $65,000 in 96, something like that. So crazy story. It's just 25 years ago, so soon 30. So anyway, this is LM2 2013, 2 flying balance wheels. From there, we created the HM9 using the same system with this absolutely, I don't know what you think, but I think it's absolutely stunning movement, which has got the architecture of a plane.
Yeah.
The 2 balance wheels are like propellers.
Rotors,
And they're like, it's going to take off. And
it reminds me a little bit of the Osprey. I don't know if you've...
Absolutely. The helicopter.
Vertical takeoff
exactly.
and lift,
And so there you go. We're super proud to present these 2 pieces. Yellow gold with green movement and white gold with light blue movement. And it's going to take us, between 12 and 18 months to come out with these pieces. And that's the novelty of Geneva Watch Days. There will be something very important for us coming out in November. That's if I see you in Dubai Watch Week.
Yeah, well, we'll try.
Until
we'll try to make it.
You're a little bit of patience.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely incredible. It's, I think, just exposing everything, and so you could see the inner workings of it is totally worth it.
The interesting part is on social media, we got a lot of hate. We got a lot of...
Yeah, I like the post. If you like 38mm classic watches, this isn't for you, right?
Exactly. It's a lot of people are like, this is hideous, this is ridiculous, this is... And of course they're right. I mean, the hideous, no, because I like it, but ridiculous, yes, of course it is. But we're in a world where we create mechanical art.
Yeah.
What we do is pointless. Don't start telling me that your watch brand, blah, 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 is so much more efficient because it's a mechanical watch. At the end of the day, we shouldn't have that conversation.
So it's true that we all have this.
Of course. Yeah. So we took it that extra mile. And I think in the history of a brand, in the history of an industry, it's important that some crazy dreamers, insane personalities come out with pieces which 50 years down the road, somebody at Christie's, Phillips and Sotheby's were like, what the hell is that? And because if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it.
Yeah.
So there you go. For me, I think it's important, and I find it incredibly, I think it's extravagant, it's insane, and it's an insane work of engineering.
Absolutely. When people ask me, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this brand, that brand? I always tell people, hey, what's the philosophy of the brand and what are they doing? Is their product reflecting that philosophy? And I think, I mean, it's a horological machine. It's mechanical, it's kinetic art, mechanical art, to the nth degree. And it's a reflection of who you are and a reflection of all these awesome ideas you've got going on. So fantastic.
I'll segue. 2 years ago, we sat down with the team to define what's the why of MB&F. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about that. And very quickly, like in about 20 minutes, we all agreed. I had actually blocked the whole morning for this. 20 minutes, we're like, the why of MB&F is to inspire people to think differently, to be more creative, and to take more risks in their lives. That is why we exist. If you look at what we've managed to do in 18 years, with virtually no means, and keeping our ethics absolutely incredibly high, maybe you in your world, whatever it is, not the watchmaking, whatever world you are, you could actually stretch a little bit, think differently, be more creative, take more risks. I think we're a great example. That's one of the results of that.
It's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I want to switch gears.
Yep.
OnlyWatch.
Yeah.
We're hearing a lot of cool stuff. We're seeing some cool stuff. We haven't seen the watch yet. That's coming soon. Moser Cie and MB&F are collaborating for the OnlyWatch this year. Tell me a little bit from what you can about that. So
it's a 2-year project. Edward actually Melon came to me after the sale 2 years ago and said, you already have something for 2023. And we had an idea. I said, yeah, but what do you have in mind? He said, why don't we do something together again? Let's not forget that we go back a long way with Moser, with the Melon family. LM1, the hairspring of LM1 2011 was done by Precision Engineering.
Oh, I did not know that.
So it's been now 12 years been working together, and all
various
a lot of,
collaborations and
hairsprings, etc. And we did the LM101 H Moser, and then they did the H Moser with our design. That was 2020 June, just a few months after the lockdown, and it was an incredible success, and we had great fun doing it. So it was like, why don't we do something? I said, look, Edward, I'm not a designer, so I'm not going to just do a different dial or a different case. If you work with me, it's going to start getting very three-dimensional. And he said, okay, pushed around a few ideas, and one of them came out, and it's insane that we actually both agreed to it. So the OnlyWatch is a minute repeater movement, which they have in their piece, which we have basically integrated in it the flying balance wheel regulator. Very cool. Only for one movement. That is certified insane.
Yeah,
it makes absolutely no business sense at all. And so we've both of us been working for 2 years to create one movement with a flying balance wheel minute repeater in a Streamliner case. And of course, we had to add a little Panda because the Panda has become what people sort of haven't understood often. The Panda for us is a symbol of the children. So we forget sometimes, because OnlyWatch has become so famous, that there's a reason to OnlyWatch. It's to fund research against muscular dystrophy. The founder, Luc Petavino of OnlyWatch, lost his son to muscular dystrophy. And I met his son Paul in 2005. Paul is not there anymore, and we've accompanied that family in their whole I don't know how you call it. I mean, their journey, we'll call it that
journey,
way.
Yeah.
And so for me, the Panda was the symbol of a child suffering, but also a child dreaming. And our very first Panda was the flying Panda on the HM4, and it was the fact of a child who's condemned, but he dreams that he's actually flying, and he flies away from his illness. And so then we reissued the Panda 2 years ago, based on the HM10. And this year I really wanted to I think I really want that Panda to be in all our OnlyWatch pieces if we can.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
And it's because let's not forget why this charity auction is. And so that Panda is a DJ. He's playing music. Music is a great way to evade whatever you're into. And that little Panda is 5 millimeters high, cast, then hand engraved, hand painted. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, you look at the detailing of something which is this high, and he, in this case it's he, because muscular dystrophy is unfortunately about boys only, and so he's playing the DJ in front of the hammers of the minute repeater.
That's pretty awesome.
So it's a beautiful piece. It's intrinsically, I found, a beautiful piece. It's a one-off as a movement. And there's something to smile about, and there's something to make you think.
I mean, what else? I think we've covered it all. And
today.
I'll let you off. I'll let you off the next meeting. And
thank you very much.
It's always great to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Max. Thanks for joining us, guys. See you next time. Stay tuned for upcoming videos from Geneva Watch Days.